just a few weeks back, one of the most explosive pieces of journalism came out. Stories came out on Julian Assange. I've done this for 5 years. I've done Assange programs, and I got to tell you, all those shows I've done didn't have the impact that this beautiful, explosive Yahoo News piece, and I congratulate them. My friend Michael Isikoff and our other guest, Zach Dorfman, who joins us from San Francisco. Let me just congratulate you first for this great piece of reportage, Zach.
Well, thank you so much, Randy, and it's great to be with you. It was a great deal of research and reporting that went into the story and a real team effort.
Well, let me ask you a question. When did you guys, I think I asked Michael a couple of weeks ago when the story first broke. Somebody said it broke like 24 hours later on AOL. Then it came back on Sunday, the following morning at 5 a.m. And then I had this interview with Michael Isikoff, and I said, "When did you? What kicked off? What kindled this this story? The genesis of it? Can you give us a little light on it? Because it's an amazing piece of work."
Sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I mean, the genesis went back many months, and I'd have to check, but I believe it was not even this calendar year. So, I was having a conversation with a former U.S. intelligence official, and this person said to me that there were a lot of things that they were relieved, right? So this person expressed relief to me because I believe this was after the election, right? And what this person said to me was, "Well, I'm very relieved because there were some things that were under discussion, just crazy ideas, during the Trump administration, and we were all very worried about them. And I asked this person, well, like what?" And they said, "Well, I don't really want to get into it." And I said, "Well, no. I mean, what were you worried about? It's important." And they said, "Well, one thing that was a crazy idea had to do with, killing Julian Assange,
Just like that? Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was, and so obviously I was taken aback by this. And, we, me, Sean Naylor, and Mike Isikoff, then kind of fanned out and spoke to, other former officials and slowly but surely, confirmed parts of this story about this effort that was kind of driven by Mike Pompeo to look into some very extreme options regarding Assange, particularly the one that got furthest was potentially kidnapping Assange from the Ecuadorian embassy in London. But then there were these other discussions that went even further toward assassination. I should note that, former officials told us that those discussions did not get very far. But nevertheless, the very fact that they were happening at all made, U.S. intelligence community and national security officials, some of them very, very uncomfortable. And the fact that the kidnapping discussions got much further along the line when you actually have the CIA director repeatedly advocating for that option at National Security Council meetings in the White House in 2017, that really, really worried people.
Well, how does that work? So he comes up with the idea, and we'll play this in a second. He comes up with the idea. He floats it around at this table with all these other people in the National Security Council, and he just comes up with it. What, did they rebuff him, or did they take it into consideration? We're talking about Pompeo, and we're talking about the kidnapping of Julian Assange, and also talk about the predicate. If they kidnapped him, what could they do with him at that point?
No, those are all great questions. I should add the caveat that we don't know whether he generated the idea or whether somebody gave it to him as an option, and he was simply enamored with it enough to actually take it seriously, whereas other folks probably wouldn't have to the same extent. According to our reporting, he took the idea downtown, to National Security Council meetings, Restricted Principles Committee meetings, what they're called, when you have, heads of U.S. government agencies dealing with national security sitting there and, repeatedly advocated for this. And, again, according to our reporting, this made some folks very uncomfortable, particularly National Security Council lawyers like John Eisenberg, who was the top NSC lawyer at the time. I mean, they were very, very concerned about the legality of doing something like this. And we can get into that in detail about why they were concerned about the potential illegality of that, because there's multiple potential points where you cross that line. You mentioned another really important point, which was if you take Assange, if you you break into the Ecuadorian embassy and you drag him out, what are you going to do with him? Now, I mean, one kind of softer version of the proposal was maybe we get the assent of the British, and we turn him over to the British, and then we would try to extradite him. Okay, well, in that case, you're still kidnapping him from the Ecuadorian embassy, right? So you're violating the sovereign territory of Ecuador by bursting into the embassy. But there were more extreme versions of this proposal that was actually like what was known as a rendition, where you throw him into a car, you get him on a plane, and then you'd need to take him somewhere. And this really worried people in the administration and the National Security Council, because people said to themselves, "What are we going to do? We're going to go back to black sites, like during the War on Terror. We're going to put them in a facility somewhere, in a third country, and until there are charges." Because again, important point, these discussions were ongoing months and months and months before Assange was actually indicted.
Yes,
you're talking about nabbing a guy who's actually not even subject to federal legal charges.
Well, we're talking about, this came out. In fact, I want to play this. This is a key point. I think at this point he was able to find a way, Pompeo, to legally lay the groundwork. This is a speech that he gave, I think, in April of 2000. This is just a clip of it. This is Pompeo when he really blew his lid and he looked crazy up there talking. But this is him speaking in front of the CIA, I believe. You can tell me afterwards, maybe the National Press Club. Could you play that clip, Reggie?
It's time to call out WikiLeaks for what it really is. A non-state hostile intelligence service often abetted by state actors like Russia. We know this because Assange and his ilk make common cause with dictators today. Yes, they try unsuccessfully to cloak themselves and their actions in the language of liberty and privacy, but in reality, they champion nothing but their own celebrity. Their currency is clickbait, their moral compass non-existent, their mission, personal self-aggrandizement through destruction of Western values.
He really seemed like he was out of breath as he was talking there. Maybe he just got out of a buffet with MBS. I don't know. Had too many, garbanzo beans and shawarma with MBS. But it was an open buffet, all you can hold down for 99 cents, as we used to say in Vegas. But let me just ask. So he says that. Now, this is in wake of the revelations of, and this is in your article, of Vault 7, the disclosures of Vault 7. That's what really rankled him. Am I correct?
You're entirely correct. So, that's important. That's an important thing to frame the story, which is that, starting in March 2017, you had WikiLeaks begin a series of releases that it called Vault 7, which, was a leak of very, very sensitive CIA hacking tools. And WikiLeaks was publishing descriptions mostly of these tools. And these are from this kind of elite, very, very secretive CIA hacking unit. And Pompeo had just taken over as CIA director, and it was, it was something that he took very, very personally, according to our reporting. But nevertheless, I mean, the speech in April 2017 was his first public speech, and it surprised a lot of observers that he spent his first public speech not talking about China or Russia or transnational Islamist terrorism, but WikiLeaks. And, while it was kind of a head scratcher for a lot of folks at the time, what we discovered over the course of our reporting was that, in fact, there was great significance to it, because he was in essence kind of declaring war on WikiLeaks. He was hinting publicly at a policy shift that would have significant ramifications for WikiLeaks and the way the U.S. government was viewing it.
I mean, it's the first time I've heard the word WikiLeaks come out of anyone is living in Washington and working there in Congress, and that was Adam Schiff. You had Adam Schiff on the other day, I think yesterday even. So what did he say he was going to do, and what is the significance of that?
Well, Congressman Schiff, who is the head of the House Intelligence Committee, as you mentioned, was interviewed yesterday by Mike Isikoff, and Mike asked him if he was aware of the story and what, if anything, he had done about the allegations contained within it. And Schiff pretty bluntly said, "Yeah, I read the story, and we sent a formal request for information from the U.S. intelligence agencies," and it seems clear he was talking about CIA and DNI, acronym soup sometimes, and requesting information about this stuff. And he told Mike Isikoff that he had not been briefed about this stuff when it was under consideration, according to our reporting, and that tracks completely with our understanding, which was that these discussions were going on at very high levels within the Trump administration, national security bureaucracy, and there was some unofficial word about some of these things that was trickling down to some folks in Congress, but there was no formal briefing on it. So, I think Schiff is trying to get to the bottom of, was the Trump administration, seriously considering, kidnapping Assange, and were they having discussions about killing him? Because, I think, the House and Senate Intelligence Committees arose in the 1970s from the ashes of, the Church and Pike committees, right, which were devoted toward ensuring congressional oversight over CIA activities, during a time when CIA and NSA were doing things that were clearly illegal. Right. And some of those included assassination plots, right? And so, this is squarely within the oversight and accountability function of Schiff's committee. So obviously we're going to keep very close eye on that and hope that we can get some more public information about it, because, one of the issues is that, sometimes the committees will say we're looking into it, and then it disappears into a black hole, and that critical accountability is never kind of given the sunlight that it deserves.
Yeah, back then in the 70s, I think Barr was, at the time, was the CIA counsel, William Barr. Now, we played that clip of Pompeo, and so this kind of set the groundwork. I want to go back to that, for them to find a legal way, if in case they did kidnap him, to charge him, right? Because they had no charges against him. They had to do something here. I think it was only Kamala Harris and Wyden from Oregon who were opposed to designating them as a non-state hostile intelligence service. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I would be happy to, and that is all very precise, Randy. So, as part of this speech, then CIA Director Pompeo declared them this non-state hostile intelligence service, which again was something that people thought, oh, that's kind of strange, right? It's a little bit odd. What they didn't, what wasn't quite grasped at the time was that was a significant policy shift, and this idea was that if you designated them internally within CIA as a non-state hostile intelligence service, that would allow for a much greater breadth of action or activity against WikiLeaks, because CIA has these powers that are known as kind of offensive counterintelligence authorities, right? And what those normally deal with is kind of covert action-like activities that you perform against other spy services, like the FSB in Russia or the MSF in China, or even certain kinds of non-state actors like Hezbollah or Al Qaeda. But what was quite novel, and I think some folks think is very, very worrying, is that, what Pompeo was saying in essence was, we are going to group WikiLeaks in with the Chinese intelligence services or with, the Iranian-sponsored terrorist group Hezbollah. And because of that, because we've now done that, we can now act in a much more aggressive fashion against them. Now, it's important to caveat that by saying that many folks that we spoke with said, look, part of the issue here was that, it's one thing to try to take down their online infrastructure once you've declared them a non-state hostile intelligence service. I mean, let's hold to the side whether that designation is actually appropriate for WikiLeaks. But that's clearly within the kind of normal boundaries of what offensive counterintelligence is. What is very boundary pushing, even if you were talking about the Chinese intelligence services, even if you were talking about the Iranian intelligence services, would be this idea that you can then kidnap their operatives or even assassinate their operatives. And so, this was for some folks, a very legally dubious path that CIA under Pompeo was beginning to go down. And so, there were kind of concerns heaped atop concerns there.
Yeah, we're running out of time here. It's going by so quickly. He accelerated the spying operation through UC Global. I'm sure he was in support of it, and they did all sorts of stuff. I was in that embassy 3 times, and I was talking about dogs and talking about. The map of China, where Shanghai was, and the seas, and we were talking about cuisine. We never, because I don't know. I'm not like a guy. I'm not a what do you call it? A junkie when it comes to all of these things, coding and the internet. I still have an AOL account, so. When I hear guys like William Binney talk about tap lines, I'm thinking of people like Ruby Keeler and Jimmy Durante tap dancing in 42nd Street. So I don't know. But, I'm there talking with them, and I must tell you that they even got me on the UC Global got me talking to him about nothing. That's on there. So they got the lawyers. They even got they stole the diapers of his partner and mother of his 2 kids, Stella Morris, and, some outrageous behavior by them. I don't understand why one guy, they're so fearful of one guy. It just it boggles my mind. What did you get a lot of heat? You got a minute left. Did you get a lot of heat from people within the intelligence community for releasing this explosive expose?
I think some folks were supportive in what they saw as extreme overreach by Director Pompeo. According to the former officials we spoke with, other folks were less pleased by it. That's there's an old saying about journalism, which is that if you die and nobody shows up at your funeral, you were a successful reporter. I think some people think, this reporting is going to help Assange. It's not my job to help or hurt Assange. It's my job to report truthfully on things that actually occurred. And this was something that was eminently newsworthy and quite worrying to a lot of people within the IC and the national security world. And so, I feel secure in that, even though I know that when you publish stories like that, you're going to ruffle some feathers.
Well, it's the old-fashioned way, who, what, when, where, why. You did all of that. It wasn't an advocacy piece. All you did was report on the story. There's a lot of us out there that do advocacy stuff, but this was just straight reporting. And I think you guys did a tremendous job. I've learned a lot. I think it educated a lot of people and worried a lot of other people. We'll see what the impact will be on the 27th and 28th when it goes to the appeal hearing by the Biden administration. Zach, people can follow you. Zach S. Dorfman on Twitter. Zach S. Dorfman on Twitter. I'm not going to mix you up with Alan Dorfman from the Teamsters. You are Zach S. Dorfman. And
I love it that you know that reference. I love it that you know that reference.
Well, I'm an old guy, man. I'm an old guy. I got it long in the tooth here. Anyway, so you guys keep up the good work. You'll come back, right?
Be delighted.
I mean, I think you got more up your sleeve, and we'll be looking for it. And you guys, this was Pulitzer Prize worthy. Thank you. At least Polk Prize. I think Pulitzer. Thank you, Zach, and give my best to Naylor and my dear friend Michael Isikoff. Zach
thank you
Dorfman.
so much,
thank you very much.